The ballroom lights in downtown Atlanta glittered like 1,000 small suns when Tunde Adebayo, tech billionaire Lagos-born Atlanta-raised, stopped breathing. He had been walking the red carpet at his foundation scholarship gala, smiling for cameras, shaking hands, doing what rich men do in tuxedos. A line of finalists waited on stage, bright teenagers from across the city, each one ready to tell a story that could change a life. Then the girl in the simple peach dress stepped forward. She was about 16, slender, dark-skinned, with a calm, careful way of standing, like she didn't want too much attention. Her hair was braided into neat cornrows, pulled into a low bun. When she leaned into the microphone, a soft curl loosened and fell across her cheek. The girl tucked the curl behind her ear. And that was when Tunde saw it, a tiny cocoa-brown crescent just behind her left ear. A moon-shaped birthmark. The room fell away. The chandeliers blurred. Somewhere, a camera clicked and a violinist prepared to play the next song. But Tunde stood frozen, locked on that small, impossible mark, the one he had kissed on a newborn cheek 16 years ago. The one the delivery doctor had called a moon's kiss. The one he had searched for, in dreams and in courtrooms, in files and in quiet prayers whispered on airplanes from Lagos to Atlanta. He stepped forward before his security could stop him. People turned. The live stream drone drifted lower. On stage the girl, her name tag read Renee Carter, went very still. Her voice trembled. "Good evening," she said. "My name is Maya." Wait," Tunde said, and his voice shattered the silence, rich and rough, like thunder before the rain. "Please. May I see the back of your ear?" A sea of confusion rolled across the room. The host laughed nervously. "Mr. Adebayo," she said, "let's, But Tunde was already at the steps, moving without grace, without plan, with only a father's wild certainty pushing his feet. He stopped at the edge of the stage, breath shaking. Maya's eyes were wide and steady. "Sir?" He swallowed. "I'm sorry, my child. This is strange, I know. But, may I look? Behind your left ear." Maya glanced at the host, then at the audience. Church ladies in Gelly who had come to support their nieces, Morehouse professors, Lagos cousins in sharp Agbada, bankers, nurses, neighborhood aunties. She lifted her chin, calm. "It's okay," she said. Gently she turned her head and swept her braids aside. There it was, clear under the bright stage light. The moon's kiss. Tunde's hands trembled. He reached into his wallet and pulled out a worn, protected photo, glossy edges soft from years of being handled. It showed a red newborn wrapped in a hospital blanket. The little face was squashed and furious, mouth open as if scolding the world. Beside that tiny face, on tender skin just behind a damp ear, lay a small, perfect crescent. The audience saw the photo. A murmur rose, building, rolling like a wave. The host lowered the mic. The violinist lowered his bow. In one of the back rows, an elderly woman in a plain gray dress gripped her cane and whispered, "God have mercy." Tunde's voice broke. 16 years ago, my daughter was born with this mark, he said, holding the photo up for the cameras. And 16 years ago, during a storm the night she was delivered, there was confusion. Power went out for a while in the maternity ward. When the lights returned, the nurse brought us a baby who... He closed his eyes, fighting for air. We were told she was ours. We loved her. We raised her. But something never stopped shouting in my spirit. He looked at Maya again, as if looking could make time move backwards and hands undo what they had done. "My little girl was switched in the hospital," he said, the words like stones. "And I think, no, I know, you are that child." Maya stepped back as if the stage tilted under her feet. Someone cried out. Phones rose like a field of metal flowers. The scholarship banner trembled in the air-conditioned breeze. The elderly woman with the cane began to move. No one watched her, all eyes were on the stage. She was small and she moved slowly, but there was a hard purpose in the set of her mouth. Years ago, she had worn a different uniform and a different name badge at a place called Lushview Women's Hospital. Tonight, her heart hammered like a locked door. Not now, she told herself. Not yet. Security formed a soft wall around Tunde. He shook them off with a quick nod. They drifted to the edges, listening to their earpieces. The host whispered into her mic, Let's take a moment, folks." Maya's hands were steady, but her throat worked as she swallowed. "Sir," she said, her voice barely more than breath. I don't know you." Tunde nodded, tears bright in his eyes. "I know." He lowered his head, pressed the photo flat against his chest. "And I know that this is not how any child should hear these words. But if the world must be turned upside down to put you where you belong, then upside down we will be." Before the room could exhale, a woman in a red coat burst through a side door and ran toward the stage. She grabbed Maya's arm. "What is happening?" she demanded, eyes flashing. "Maya, baby, come down now." People recognized her. Renee Carter, a night shift home health aide. The kind of woman who kept other people's grandmothers alive. She stood between her daughter and the billionaire's sorrow like a shield. "This is my child," Renee said, voice shaking from anger and fear. "You can't just point at her with your big lights and your long money and claim what you want. We are not for sale." Tunde opened his hands. His voice was soft. "Ma'am, I'm not trying to take anything. I am trying to return something that was stolen from both of us." Behind them, the ballroom doors opened again. A teenager in a silver dress stepped in, pulling away from an assistant's hand. She had Tunde's cheekbones and his fierce eyebrows, the same fire in her walk. Zara Adebayo, the daughter the world knew, the one on magazine covers, the one with piano recitals and summer robotics camps, stopped short as she saw her father on stage, holding a baby picture up to a girl she had never met. "Dad." Zara's voice floated across the room like a small boat heading into rough water. "What are you doing?" The camera swung toward her. The audience split into two seas, turning to watch. Bankers whispered. Endies crossed themselves. Some who loved the Adebayo family wiped their eyes for a loss they hadn't understood until now. Tunde's mouth opened, then closed. In that breath, time cracked again. The first time had been the night the power failed at Lushview. This was the second. The backstory that lived under his skin clawed to the surface. It had been storming hard that night 16 years ago. Rain hammered the hospital roof like drumsticks, and thunder turned the windows into restless mirrors. The backup generator hummed but flickered. Nurses moved by muscle memory, their hands used to finding things in the dark. Monica, Tunde's wife then, had gripped his hand with a force that left crescent moons in his palm. "Look," she had whispered when the baby came, smiling through tears at those tiny eyes and the moon's kiss. A nurse had laughed softly. "God marked her," she said, and slid a small bracelet onto the newborn's wrist. An hour later, the power failed for good, plunging the ward into a heavy, humming dark. Chaos rose. Monitors whining, someone crying, a baby wailing with a voice too big for such a small body. Footsteps slapped. Names were called. When the generator choked back to life, a different nurse brought a different baby. No birthmark. "It's swollen," the nurse said, smiling tired. "Sometimes they fade after the bath." Monica was exhausted. Tunde was torn between fear and trust. Papers were signed. The bracelet, he should have checked the bracelet. Instead, he stared at his wife's soft, proud face and told himself not to be a fool. The bracelet disappeared. The birthmark didn't fade, it vanished. And doubt grew in him like a slow, stubborn weed. He hired investigators. He asked questions. The hospital closed 5 years later, quietly after whispers of record errors and funding problems. The head nurse retired. People moved away. Papers got misplaced. The truth scattered. Now, in a glittering ballroom half a world and a lifetime from that storm, the truth stood behind a girl's ear. On stage, Renee's grip tightened on her daughter's wrist. "We are going home," she said. "Now." Maya looked from her mother to the billionaire to the girl in silver who had just said, "Dad," like it could fix something. She reached up and touched the little crescent behind her ear, the mark she had always thought was just hers and no one's business. The elderly woman with the cane had reached the front row now. Security barely noticed her. She lifted her face and for a moment, the light caught the old nurse's badge she still carried in her purse. Lushview Women's Hospital, Evelyn Okonkwo RN, like a badge of honor and a stone of shame. "Mr. Adebayo," she said, voice thin but steady. "If you want the truth, you must hear it while I can still stand." Tunde turned, stunned by the voice that smelled of sterile hallways and winter rain. It pulled him back to hard chairs and cold coffee and a lullaby sung off-key by a man trying to calm a crying stranger's baby. Evelyn's eyes glistened. "You are not wrong," she said. "But you are not the only one." The room seemed to sway. "Not the only one what?" the host asked, forgetting the show voice and leaning in like a neighbor across a fence. "Not the only family switched," Evelyn said, and the last word shook. That night, it was not one cradle. It was two. A gasp ran around the ballroom. Zara's hands flew to her mouth. Renee took a step back, dizzy. Maya's knees trembled. Evelyn reached into her bag. Her fingers came out shaking, holding a thin hospital ankle bracelet, cracked with age, the kind that once circled a newborn's skin. The tag read, "Baby Girl Adebayo." The time stamp was the storm's hour. She lifted it high for only a heartbeat before a sharp voice cut through the air from the shadowed doorway behind her. "Put that down," the voice commanded, "or you'll never make it out of this building." Two men in dark suits stepped forward, faces blank, moving with the quiet, practiced confidence of people who expected doors to open. The violinist dropped his bow. A camera operator swore under his breath. Security began to move, too late to be early, too early to be too late. The bracelet trembled in Evelyn's hand. She looked at Tunde, at Maya, at the girl in silver, at the mother in red. Her mouth formed words without sound. The lights dimmed for the next program cue, and in the half-shadow one of the men reached for the bracelet. The screen behind the stage went black, then flickered. For a split second, before the AV team could kill it, an old grainy photo flashed 10 feet high, two newborns in adjacent cribs beneath paper name cards. The same storm night time stamp. One card read Baby Girl Carter. The other read Baby Girl Adebayo. The crowd screamed, "Dad!" Zara said again, voice breaking. And as the room erupted, security surging, the men in suits closing in, Evelyn clutching the bracelet, Renee pulling Maya backward, Tunde stepped up onto the stage at last, eyes locked on the screen, on the girl, on the mark, on the proof rising from the past like a ghost. He drew breath to speak, and the ballroom doors slammed open hard enough to shake the chandeliers. A figure in a white doctor's coat, face hidden beneath a cap, pointed straight at Tunde and shouted over the chaos. "Say nothing if you want either girl to live." The voice in the white coat cut through the noise like a blade. "Say nothing if you want either girl to live." Silence dropped heavy and fast. Even the cameras went still. The two men in dark suits paused, eyes on the doctor. Only Evelyn's bracelet hand kept shaking. Tunde raised both palms as if quiet could be built like a wall. "No one is harming any child here," he said, steady, each word measured. "This is a scholarship gala. We have law enforcement outside. You are making threats in a room full of witnesses." The doctor didn't flinch. "Then choose your words with care, Mr. Adebayo. The truth is a match. It can light a home. It can also burn one down." Security finally reached the doctor. "Hands where we can see them," a guard said, polite but firm. The doctor lifted both hands slowly, revealing nothing but long fingers and a wedding band. No weapon. No badge. No name tag. Renee pulled Maya close, breath warm against her daughter's temple. "Keep your eyes on me," she whispered. "I've got you." Zara stood at the bottom of the stairs, face pale beneath stage lights. She looked at Maya, same height, close age, different worlds, and then at her father. "Dad," she said, quieter now, "tell me what to do." Tunde heard the plea and swallowed. For 16 years he had been the one with answers. Build the company. Win the deal. Protect the family. Today he felt like a man trying to grab rain. Evelyn took a shaky step nearer, the bracelet cupped against her chest. "Mr. Adebayo," she said, "they can scare me. They cannot unmake what I did." The doctor turned toward her, voice soft. "Evelyn, don't." The name rolled out familiar, like a habit, like history. "Not this way." Evelyn's eyes went stubborn. "Too late," she said. "I carried this weight too long." The ballroom manager, cheeks shiny with sweat, rushed the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, paper voice bright, "we're going to take a brief intermission for safety. Please remain calm as our team guides you to the foyer. There will be refreshments." No one moved. Tunde looked from the doctor to the bracelet to Maya's small, shaking hand. He made a decision. "We go behind the stage," he told his head of security quietly. "Now, keep it soft. No shouting." They moved like a shadow, guiding the key people off the lights and into the dim wings where cables coiled and texts whispered into headsets. Renee went with Maya, refusing to let any stranger's hand touch her child. Zara stayed close beside her father, chin up, trying hard not to look like she was about to cry. In the wings, the music was just a dull thumping through walls. The smell of hot lights gave way to dust and tape and the faint scent of someone's hair oil. There was a small green room with a couch and a kettle and bottled water. Tunde shut the door and told his security to hold it from outside. Inside the small room, the white coat looked wrong, too clean, too bright. The doctor stood by the wall, hands still up, eyes moving like someone measuring a room for exits. Evelyn sank into the chair, cane clattering, and pressed the bracelet flat on her knees as if steadying it could steady her. "Start," Tunde said, voice low. "Say your name." The doctor hesitated. "Kemi," she said at last. "Dr. Kemi Daniels." She glanced at Evelyn. "We worked the same ward. She trained me." Evelyn gave a tired half nod. "She was good," she said. "Still is if she remembers who she is." Renee stood, shoulders squared, one arm around Maya. "You have 1 minute before I call the police," she told them. "Someone just threatened my child. I don't care if you carry a stethoscope or a trumpet, I will not have it." Dr. Daniels lowered her hands. Her voice softened. "I wasn't threatening your daughter. I was warning him." She looked at Tunde. "There are people with too much to lose if this gets loud. Richer than you. Meaner than you. They used the chaos that night to cover other things. Baby bracelets were not the only records that went missing." "Other things?" Zara asked, arms wrapped around her waist. "Like what?" "Like donor lists," Dr. Daniels said. "Like off-the-books payments. Like favors owed between a hospital board and a private insurer that does not enjoy daylight." Tunde frowned. "Speak plain." Dr. Daniels leaned forward. 16 years ago a storm hit. Power failed. Nurses ran. 2 babies were switched. Accident or design, I still don't know. But I know this. A week later an envelope of cash found its way into one nurse's locker. Not Evelyn's. Another. And 2 months after that, an anonymous scholarship to a training school in Gwinnett County appeared for a junior staffer who happened to be the person logging wristband numbers that night. Her eyes didn't leave Tunde's face. The sender name on the scholarship paperwork? The Adebayo Impact Fund. Zara's mouth opened. "Dad." Tunde's jaw worked. "My fund supports health workers," he said, the words brittle. "We give thousands of scholarships a year. If someone used our name." "They didn't use it," Dr. Daniels said softly. "They asked for it. Someone from your old board begged your office for a quick pledge. A favor. Your foundation manager at the time agreed. Good PR. You took a picture with the class. It looked beautiful. And it made the people who needed one nurse quiet very grateful." The room tilted an inch at a time. The kettle clicked behind them with an ugly cheerfulness. Evelyn let out a long breath. "I didn't know the money trail," she said. "I only knew that after that night, the ward chief told us to clean up the files. And when I found the wrong bracelet tossed in a supply drawer, I took it. I told myself I would wait for the right time." Her eyes glistened. "It kept not being the right time." Renee rubbed her forehead. "So what do you want now?" she asked. "Because my child can't breathe and neither can I." "We want proof," Tunde said. He looked at Dr. Daniels. "You talk like a person who knows where it lives." "I know where some of it was," she answered. "Lushview closed 5 years ago, but the storage unit they used for old records is still in a lease under a shell company. I have the address. I do not have a key." Evelyn reached slowly into the side pocket of her bag. Her fingers came up with a small dull brown key attached to a faded tag. "I do," she said. "Took it the day they told me to retire. You can judge me later. Today this is what I have." Maya stared at the key, then at the bracelet. "If we go there," she said, voice small but even, "will it tell me who I am?" Evelyn squeezed her eyes shut. "It will tell you who tried to decide for you." Zara took a step toward Maya, stopping at arm's length. "I don't know what this makes us," she said, honest and bare. "Sisters? Strangers? But I'm not letting you go there alone." Renee looked between the girls and then at Tunde. "No one is going anywhere without police," she said. "Agreed," Tunde replied. "But cops move slow, and whoever showed their faces in that ballroom is going to move fast." He turned to his security chief at the door. "Obi, 2 cars. Unmarked. We go quiet. And call Detective Lawson. Tell her I want her to meet us where I'll send." Obi nodded and slipped away. Dr. Daniels shifted. "You bring police," she said, "and the unit might be clean by the time we arrive. I know these people. They can empty a building in an hour." "Then we move now," Tunde said. "With body cams rolling. With backups of backups. If this is a trap, it will be for me, not for the children." Renee lifted her chin. "I'm coming." "You are," Tunde said simply. He turned to Zara. "You too. But you stay glued to Obi. You don't break line of sight. You don't play hero." Zara nodded, jaw tight. Maya looked at her mother. Renee nodded once. "You don't leave my side," she said. "You hear me?" "I hear you," Maya whispered. They split into 2 small groups to slip out the back. Tunde with Obi and Zara, Renee with Maya and Evelyn, and Dr. Daniels between them, the uneasy bridge. In the loading bay, Atlanta night pressed humid and close. The city's neon washed the alley blue and pink. Somewhere a siren sang. Obi's team opened the rear doors of 2 dark SUVs. They moved fast, quiet, faces set. 15 minutes later, they rolled past shuttered storefronts and a strip of late-night barbecue joints. then under the highway toward a row of storage warehouses that looked like they had been forgotten on purpose. Dr. Daniels pointed to a blocky building with a faded sign, DeKalb Self-Storage. Half the bulbs in the sign were dead. They parked under a busted light. The lot was mostly empty. Crickets screamed in the grass by the fence. Evelyn's hands shook as she held out the key. Tunde took it, then stopped and looked at Maya. "This is your life too," he said. "You open it." Maya swallowed, stepped forward and took the key. It felt heavier than it looked. They moved along a row of metal doors until Dr. Daniels stopped at one stamped C-17. Obi scanned, one ear to his mic. "Clear," he murmured. "For now." Maya slid the key into the lock. It turned with a tired clunk. She lifted the rolling door. It groaned upward, dust falling in little clouds. Inside, metal shelves, old banker's boxes, a dead fan, a broken chair. On the top shelf, something blinked, a tiny red dot, steady and patient. Obi swore under his breath. "Camera," he said. "Hardwired. Someone is watching this unit." They all froze. A soft click sounded from deep inside, like a tongue on a pallet. Then another. Renee reached for her daughter's hand. "Back," she whispered. Before they could step away, a motion sensor light popped on and washed the unit in pale yellow. The red dot blinked faster, like a heartbeat that had started to run. And from the shadowed corner, a voice drifted out, calm, almost kind, the voice of a person who had been waiting. "You found us," the voice said. "Good. Because if you want the real records, you'll trade for them." A figure stepped into the light and pulled off a cap. It was Tunde's former foundation manager, the one who had left suddenly a decade ago and refused to take his calls. "Hello, sir," she said as if greeting him in their old office. "Ready to pay for the truth you accidentally funded?" The air in the storage unit turned heavy, thick enough to taste. The woman standing before them, Tunde's former foundation manager Angela Brooks, smiled the way a person smiles when they know more than everyone else in the room. Her hair was short and silver now, her skin the smooth mahogany of a woman who had aged with careful money. A gold chain glimmered at her throat, catching the dim light from the motion sensor above them. "Angela," Tunde said at last, voice low, disbelieving. "You vanished 10 years ago. I sent people looking. What are you doing here?" "Waiting," Angela said, her tone calm, practiced. "Waiting for you to finally follow the trail I left." Evelyn's cane tapped once against the floor. "You were the one who told us to burn the files." Angela nodded, unbothered. "Yes. Because someone had to keep them safe." Dr. Daniel stepped forward. "Safe? Babies were switched. Families were torn apart. You call that safe?" Angela's eyes flashed. "I didn't switch those babies, doctor. I stopped the people who wanted to sell them." Everyone froze. Even the cicadas outside seemed to pause their song. Renee's arm tightened protectively around Maya. "Sell?" she repeated. "What do you mean sell?" Angela took a small step closer, careful, controlled. 16 years ago, Lushview Hospital wasn't just a maternity ward. It was a front. A handful of private investors, powerful people, Nigerian and American, were funding an illegal surrogacy ring. Babies were being traded under forged birth records to desperate, wealthy couples who couldn't have children. The storm that night ruined their system. 2 babies were misplaced before the brokers could clean up. I found out too late. She reached for a dusty box on the shelf and pulled it down, brushing the top with her sleeve. "I took what I could," she said. "Files, DNA reports, photos. Then I ran." Tunde's voice was gravel. "Why didn't you come to me?" "I tried," she said. "But the board silenced me. You were their golden boy, Lagos-born tech genius, the perfect face for their philanthropy. They said if I exposed them, I'd ruin your name, your fund, everything. And when I refused to cooperate, someone sent men to my house. I barely escaped." Zara's brow furrowed. "So you've been hiding all this time?" Angela nodded. "I've lived under 3 names since then. But when I saw your gala on the news last week, I realized, it's time." Tunde's chest heaved once. "You have proof?" Angela's gaze shifted toward Maya, then to Zara. "Proof that both of these girls were part of that storm's chaos?" "Yes." "Proof that the same investors who sponsored that hospital are still alive, rich, and funding charities through shell foundations in both countries?" "Also yes. But it's not free." Renee's eyes narrowed. "You're going to charge us for the truth?" Angela smiled faintly. "I'm not charging you, Mrs. Carter. I'm buying safety. There's a difference. Once I give you this evidence, they'll come for all of us. I want guarantees, money, relocation, protection. I want out before the fire starts." Tunde stepped forward. You'll have everything you need. But I see the files first. Angela studied him. Then, with a slow motion, she opened the dusty box and took out a thick brown envelope sealed with brittle tape. Inside are hospital records, delivery notes, wristband logs, and 2 DNA slips that were never submitted. They match this. From her jacket, she pulled a small plastic bag containing a strip of paper, the original baby girl Adebayo bracelet. Evelyn gasped. I thought I had the only one. Angela shook her head. You had the copy. I had the real thing. Evelyn, you were honest, but you were also easy to manipulate. They knew you'd keep something if you felt guilty. Obi, standing near the door, shifted uneasily. Boss, he murmured. We've got headlights outside. Multiple cars. Tun's stomach dropped. How many? 3, maybe 4. Tinted. No tags. Angela exhaled sharply. Then it's already too late. They followed me here. Maya's small hand gripped her mother's fingers. Mom, are we in danger? Renee crouched, cupping her daughter's face. No one's touching you, baby. Not while I'm breathing. Angela pushed the envelope into Tun's hand. That's everything. Get it to someone who isn't afraid of rich monsters. The police won't protect you, the people involved have reach. Tund ripped the seal open just enough to glimpse the contents. Official hospital letterheads, names, a fingerprint page, and a photo of 2 infants in a delivery room, identical blankets, tags barely visible. Beneath them, a signature, Dr. Kemi Daniels. Tund looked up sharply. Kemi? Dr. Daniels froze. That's not possible, she whispered. Angela turned toward her slowly. It is. You signed the delivery records. Both sets. The originals and the forged ones. Kemi's eyes widened. No, I was ordered to. The ward chief, he said the babies were pre-checked, that the paperwork needed to match insurance numbers. Angela's voice hardened. And you obeyed. Zara stared at Kemi, betrayal flickering across her face. You knew. I didn't. Kemi cried. I swear, I didn't know they were switching them for money. I thought it was administrative confusion. Evelyn's cane clattered to the floor. All these years, she whispered, we were pawns in someone else's greed. Outside, tires crunched on gravel. Obi peeked out the window slit. They're stepping out. Suits, 4 men, 1 woman. I don't see badges. Angela pulled a small device from her pocket, a remote. Then we have about 30 seconds before this place becomes smoke. Tund stiffened. What did you do? Insurance, Angela said simply. If I didn't come back by midnight, the motion sensor would trigger a self-burn system. It's crude, just gasoline and a spark, but effective. I rigged it years ago to keep them from finding the evidence. The timer starts when too many unfamiliar cell signals register inside the lot. Obi's earpiece crackled. Boss, they're using signal jammers, he said grimly. Phones are dead. The lights flickered, then went red. A faint beep 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 echoed from somewhere above the unit. Angela's eyes met Tund's. You want to save your girls? Get them out. Now. Renee's grip on Maya's hand tightened as she turned to run. Zara followed, helping Evelyn toward the exit. Obi motioned to his men, shouting over the growing hum of the alarm. Move, move. Tund stayed a second longer, staring at Angela. Come with us. She shook her head. There's one more copy of the files, digitized. I'll trigger the upload from here. Someone needs to make sure it finishes. You'll die, he said. Angela smiled faintly. Maybe. But maybe I owe these girls that much. He hesitated, then pressed the envelope into his jacket and ran. They burst into the night just as the first explosion tore through the row of storage units. A blast of heat shoved them forward. Metal screamed. Firelight painted the parking lot red. Maya stumbled. Renee caught her, shielding her from flying debris. Evelyn fell to her knees beside the SUV, clutching her chest. Obi's men pulled them behind the vehicles as another small explosion flared down the row. Behind them, Angela's silhouette stood framed in orange light for a single second, then vanished as the roof collapsed. Tund turned away, smoke stinging his eyes. The envelope in his pocket felt like it weighed 100 pounds. Somewhere in the distance, sirens began to wail. Renee looked at him, her voice shaking. So that's it? The woman who switched our children just dies? And we're left with papers? Tund looked at Maya, her small, trembling form pressed against her mother's shoulder, the faint moon-shaped mark behind her ear glowing in the firelight. No, he said quietly. That's not it. He turned to Obi. Call Lawson. We're going to the only place these papers will make sense. Someone who can decode them. Who? Obi asked. Tund's eyes hardened. The man who funded Lushview in the first place. Zara stepped closer. Dad, you mean? He nodded. Chief Tunde Adebayo. The man who taught me everything about business, and the man who's been pretending to be our family friend all these years. As the fire engine screamed closer, Tunde looked back once at the burning storage unit. This ends with him. The night closed in around them, thick with smoke, secrets, and the sound of destiny catching up. Dawn bled over Atlanta in shades of gray and gold, the city half awake, pretending nothing had burned the night before. But the sky still smelled faintly of smoke, and for Tunde Adebayo, the air itself felt charged, like the storm from 16 years ago had come back to finish what it started. He sat in the back seat of the SUV, the brown envelope open on his lap. Renee and Maya sat opposite, their faces pale under the morning light. Zara leaned against the window, earbuds in but no music playing. Evelyn dozed fitfully between them, her cane pressed against her chest. Every few minutes, Tunde reread the same page, the hospital's infant delivery log, night of June 12th. 2 entries timestamped minutes apart. Baby girl Adebayo, 12:41 a.m. Baby girl Carter, 12:43 a.m. In the margin, a faint handwritten note. Bracelet switched during power outage. Confirm status before discharge. But the initials next to it weren't Angela's or Evelyn's. They belonged to someone else entirely. B.R.T. Tunde's hand tightened around the paper. He signed it, he whispered. Renee frowned. Who? Tunde Adebayo, he said. My mentor. The man who helped fund my first company. The man who helped rebuild Lushview after the fire. Zara sat up. Dad, you told me Uncle Tunde was like family. He was, Tunde said quietly. Until now. They pulled into the gated drive of B.R.T's estate, a sprawling mansion on the city's edge, guarded by stone lions and tall palm trees that swayed in the humid air. It looked peaceful, untouched. But Tunde's gut told him this house had as many ghosts as the hospital. Obi's team checked the perimeter first. 2 guards at the front, unarmed but watchful. Stay close, Tunde told the others. If anything happens, Obi gets you out. He stepped from the SUV, clutching the envelope. Renee followed, one arm protectively over Maya's shoulder. The girl walked quietly, head down, her braids brushing her cheeks. Inside, the mansion gleamed with wealth, marble floors, imported chandeliers, soft Yoruba music playing somewhere in the background. On the far end of the room, sitting by a floor-to-ceiling window that overlooked the lake, was Chief Tunde Adebayo himself. He was in his 70s, dark-skinned and regal, his once black beard now white as salt. He wore a flowing agbada of sky blue and gold embroidery, and his walking stick leaned against the chair. Tunde, he said, smiling as if welcoming an old friend. You look troubled. Sit. Tunde didn't move. I know what you did. B.R.'s smile didn't falter. You'll have to be more specific, my boy. I've done many things in my time. You signed this, Tunde said, throwing the document onto the table. The night 2 babies were switched. You were there. B.R. picked up the paper with trembling fingers, glanced at it, and then sighed. Ah, that night. I wondered when the past would crawl back. Renee stepped forward. You wondered? 2 girls grew up in the wrong homes because of you. B.R. turned to her with polite calm. Mrs. Carter, I presume. You must understand, Lushview was collapsing. The investors wanted results. One of the mothers that night had been promised a child by powerful people. They would not tolerate failure. I made a decision that saved lives, or so I told myself. Tunde's voice cracked. You played God. I played survivor, B.R. replied sharply. We were under pressure from men who could make families disappear. When the storm hit and chaos broke out, someone made a swap, perhaps for greed, perhaps for mercy. By morning it was done. I signed those papers to cover the mess and protect the hospital's reputation. Zara's voice trembled. So, you knew all along? You let us grow up as strangers. B.R.'s expression softened, but his eyes remained cold. The truth would have destroyed your father's name. He was young, ambitious, building an empire. If people found out his child was stolen in a hospital scandal, everything would have collapsed. I gave him silence and a future. Renee's eyes filled with tears. At the expense of mine. B.R. rose slowly, using his walking stick. And now that the secret is out, tell me, Mrs. Carter, what will you do? Sue a dead hospital? Or ruin your daughter's life in the courts of the internet? Tunde stepped closer, fists clenched. You think this is about headlines? This is about blood, B.R. said. You cannot rewrite it. You can only decide how to live with it. For a long, tense moment, no one spoke. The old man's words hung in the air like smoke. Then Maya took a hesitant step forward. "Sir," she said quietly, "if you really believed you were saving lives, why are there guns outside your house?" Bakir blinked. "What?" Obi's earpiece crackled. "Boss, multiple SUVs just pulled in behind us. Not security, blacked out windows. 6 men, maybe more." Bakir turned toward the window, frowning. "That's not mine." Tun's voice hardened. "Then whose?" A split second later, the sound of doors slamming echoed across the compound. Footsteps thundered on the gravel. Renee grabbed Maya's hand. "We need to move." Bakir's composure finally cracked. "They found me," he whispered. "The investors, they must have seen the fire last night. They'll kill us all." "Who are they?" Tun demanded. "The board that owned Lushview," Bakir said hoarsely. "They called themselves the Custodians. Old money. Nigerian, American, European. They ran the entire operation." Gunfire shattered the front gate. Screams followed. Obi drew his weapon, barking orders into his mic. "Get down. Move to the East Hall now." Tun pushed Maya and Zara toward Renee. "Stay with her. Don't look back." Bakir staggered after them. "The lake," he gasped. "There's a tunnel that leads out. I built it years ago. Follow me." Bullets tore through the glass as they ran down the marble corridor. Chandeliers exploded into raining shards. Evelyn stumbled. Zara caught her arm. "Come on, Grandma," she panted. They burst through a back door into the garden, the morning sun glaring off the lake. The tunnel entrance lay hidden beneath a stone hatch near the boathouse. Bakir knelt beside it, fingers trembling on the latch. "Go," he said. "They won't stop until the records are gone." Tund hesitated. "You're coming with us." Bakir shook his head. "I've been running from this for 16 years. Let me finish it properly." He shoved the hatch open. "Take them, boy. Protect what's left of your name." Tun's throat burned as he helped Renee, Maya, Zara, and Evelyn down into the dark tunnel. Obi followed last, sealing the hatch above them. The sounds of chaos faded behind them. Shouts, glass breaking, a single gunshot that echoed across the lake like thunder. Inside the tunnel, their flashlight beams cut through the darkness. The air was damp, the walls slick with moss. Maya's small voice broke the silence. "Mom?" "Yes, baby?" "If that man was helping bad people, why did he save us?" Renee glanced at Tund. "Because sometimes," she said softly, "even guilty men want to die doing one right thing." They walked in silence for several minutes until the tunnel opened into a concrete chamber that led to a hidden exit near an abandoned boat dock. The water shimmered in front of them, bright and cruel. Zara turned to her father. "Now what?" Tund opened the envelope again, flipping to the last page. A single name was scribbled there in red ink. One Angela Brooks must have written before the fire. Custodian leader, J. Holbrook, Washington, D.C. Tund's eyes narrowed. "Now," he said, "we take this to the one person even the custodians fear, the press." He tucked the documents under his arm, helping Evelyn climb onto the dock. "We're going to burn the story before they burn us." But before he could take another step, a phone rang. Loud, shrill, echoing in the still air. Everyone froze. The ringtone came from Maya's pocket. She pulled out the phone, her cheap second-hand device, and frowned. "It's an unknown number." "Don't answer," Renee said quickly. But the screen lit up with a video call request. The preview image made everyone's stomach drop. It was a live feed of Bakir's burning house. And in the corner of the frame, a masked figure stood holding a photo, the same baby picture Tund had shown at the gala. Then a distorted voice came through the speaker. "Mr. Adebayo, you've been looking for the truth. But remember, truth has a price. If you don't return what Angela took, you'll lose both daughters before the sun sets." The screen flickered, then went black. Silence. Evelyn crossed herself. "Lord have mercy." Tund's jaw tightened. He looked at Maya, then at Zara. 2 lives, 2 bloodlines, and 1 nightmare binding them together. He spoke through clenched teeth. "Then we'll make sure they learn the only thing more dangerous than a billionaire with nothing left to lose." He turned toward the road. Is a father who finally found his real child. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want to see what happens next in Billionaire's little girl who was switched in the hospital at birth. The long road stretched ahead, narrow and wet from the dawn drizzle. The SUV's tires hissed softly over the asphalt as Tund drove in silence, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Beside him, Renee stared out the window, jaw tight, her arm protectively around Maya in the back seat. Zara sat on the other side, silent, torn between fear and disbelief. Behind them, the black column of smoke rising from B.R.T's mansion blurred into the morning fog. The faint sirens in the distance were useless comfort. They all knew the men who came weren't the kind police would chase. Renee broke the silence first. "We need to go to the police, Tunde. They threatened our daughters. Both of them." Tunde's voice was low, steady, almost too calm. "The same police that ignored Angela's call 16 years ago? No. These people own departments, judges, even newspapers. If we go loud now, they'll spin the story before we can prove anything." Renee turned sharply toward him. "So what, we just run?" Tunde shook his head. "No. We find the proof Angela was trying to upload before she died. She said she digitized everything. Somewhere those files still exist." Zara leaned forward between the seats. "You think she sent them online?" "She was smart," he said. "If she set an automatic upload, there'll be a trace. Maybe in a cloud account, a secure drive, somewhere." Maya's soft voice came from the back seat. "But how will we find it?" Tunde reached into his jacket and pulled out the charred flash drive Angela had slipped into the envelope, half melted but the metal connector still intact. "She planned ahead," he said. "There's always a backup." Renee eyed it warily. "If you plug that into any network, they'll trace us." "I know," Tunde said. "That's why we're not using my house or office." He glanced at Obi driving the second SUV behind them in the mirror. "We're heading to someone who owes me a favor." "Who?" Renee asked. Tunde's eyes darkened. "A hacker named Deji. Used to work for my cybersecurity team until he got caught selling data to tabloids. I bailed him out once. Now he'll return the favor." They reached Deji's place an hour later, a rundown apartment above a mechanic workshop in Decatur. The building smelled of oil, fried plantains, and old dreams. A metal door covered in stickers read, "Keep out, genius at work." Tunde knocked twice. The door opened halfway, revealing a young man with light brown skin, dreadlocks tied back, and thick glasses sliding down his nose. He looked both shocked and nervous. "Olga Tunde?" "Yes," Tunde said. "We need your help. Now." Deji looked past him, spotting the women and the two teenagers. His expression shifted from surprise to curiosity. "This looks serious." "It's life and death," Tunde said simply. Deji stepped aside. "Come in." Inside, the small apartment was filled with monitors, wires, and blinking routers. A half-eaten bowl of noodles sat beside a humming server tower. Tunde placed the damaged flash drive on the table. "Can you recover data from this?" Deji whistled low. "Omo, this thing looks like it's been through a war." He picked it up carefully. "Maybe, but I'll need time." "Time is something we don't have," Tunde said. "Then let's see what the gods of code can do." Deji got to work, connecting wires and opening terminals that flashed with streams of data. The air filled with the clicking of keys and the hum of fans. Maya sat beside Renee on the worn couch, whispering softly. "Mom, are we going to be okay?" Renee brushed her braids gently. "We will, baby. I promise. Just hold on." Zara stood by the window watching the street below. "Dad," she said after a while, "what if the people who killed B.R.T find us?" "They will," Tunde said quietly. "But when they do, we'll be ready." Deji suddenly raised his hand. "Wait, I've got something." Everyone crowded around. On one of the monitors, an old email popped up, encrypted but partially readable. It was from Angela Brooks. Subject: "In case I don't make it, trust no one from Lushview." Body: "If you're reading this, I'm gone. Files uploaded to a ghost drive under my alias Ebony Archive." Access key embedded in an image, the one thing that can't be traced, a photo of the moon over Lagos taken on June 12th. Renee frowned. "The night of the storm." Tunde nodded slowly. "The night Maya was born." Deji typed rapidly. "I can run a reverse image search for any file titled with that date and her alias. Might take a few minutes." Suddenly the power flickered. Then again. Deji froze. "That's not normal. The building's grid just got pinged." "Meaning?" Tunde asked. "Meaning someone found our location." Renee stood, pulling Maya close. "Not again." Zara's voice rose in panic. "Dad, the street?" Through the window, two black SUVs rolled to a stop outside the mechanic shop. Men in dark suits stepped out, scanning the area. Obi's radio crackled. "We've got company." 4 men approaching, possibly armed. Deji unplugged the main tower, shoving the drive into his pocket. They can't get this. The rest is backed up on my offline unit. Move. Tunde barked. They scrambled for the back door, but before they reached it, glass shattered, bullets tearing through the windows. Maya screamed as Renee pushed her to the floor. Obi and his men returned fire from outside, yelling commands. Deji threw himself under the table, clutching the drive. If they get this, it's over. Tunde pulled Renee and the girls toward the stairwell. Out through the back. They raced down the metal stairs into the alley. Smoke rose from the front of the building as gunfire echoed behind them. Deji followed, panting, his hands trembling around the drive. Your enemies, they're using military-grade jammers. These aren't just businessmen, Tunde. They're trained. I know, Tunde said grimly. They reached Obi's SUV at the alley's end. Go, he shouted. As they piled in, a bullet hit the rearview mirror, shattering it. Tunde floored the accelerator, speeding out onto the highway. Deji slumped in the back seat, sweating. The files are safe. But there's more. Tunde glanced at him. What? I decrypted one piece before the power cut, Deji said. It wasn't just babies. There were 4 switched that night. 2 boys. 2 girls. Renee turned sharply. What are you saying? Deji swallowed hard. Maya and Zara weren't the only ones. There's another pair, somewhere out there, still living each other's lives. The SUV went silent except for the sound of tires cutting through the rain. Maya's voice was small but steady. So, there are more kids like me? Tunde looked at her in the rearview mirror. Maybe. And we'll find them too. But first, we finish what Angela started. Renee took a deep breath. And if these custodians come again? Tunde's eyes hardened, his voice cold and sure. Then we stop being the hunted. He reached into his jacket, pulling out a small pistol and a folded photo, the one of baby Maya with the moon-shaped mark. This time, he said, staring out at the storm clouds gathering ahead, we hunt them back. Rain poured in thick, silvery sheets as Tunde's SUV cut through the wet highway, tires splashing across puddles that looked like shattered glass. The wipers squeaked in rhythm with the heavy breaths of everyone inside. No one spoke for several miles. The thunder outside sounded like distant gunfire, each rumble reminding them that somewhere behind, the custodians were still hunting. Deji sat in the back seat with his laptop balanced on his knees, typing furiously despite the flickering Wi-Fi signal. I'm close, he muttered, eyes darting between lines of green text on a black screen. Angela's files are encrypted, but I've broken half of them. The rest, it's like someone's guarding them remotely. Guarding? Renee asked, arms wrapped protectively around Maya. Deji nodded. Yeah, like an AI lock. Custom-coded, military-level encryption. If I push too hard, it'll fry the data. But if I can just find the second key, the photo of that moon over Lagos, then everything opens. Zara leaned forward from the back seat, frowning. So where do we find the picture? Tunde's gaze stayed fixed on the road. Angela's message said it was taken on June 12th, the night of the storm. Maybe she hid it somewhere public, somewhere no one would suspect. Deji tapped his chin. Could be social media. Old blog, email, or archive site. If she used the alias Ebony Archive, I might be able to cross-match the metadata. Do it, Tunde said. They reached an abandoned radio station outside the city, one of Tunde's old properties, forgotten after his media investments collapsed years ago. The gates creaked as Obi's second SUV rolled in behind them. The building stood 2 stories tall, graffiti-covered, its glass panels smeared with dust. It wasn't much, but it was hidden, and that was all that mattered now. Inside, the air was stale with the scent of wet concrete and old microphones. Tunde and Obi swept through the rooms, checking for cameras or signs of intrusion. All clear, Obi said. We'll hold here. Deji set up his equipment on an old wooden table, connecting cables to a portable generator. Screens flickered to life, glowing pale in the darkness. Maya stood near the window staring out at the storm. She spoke softly, more to herself than anyone. All my life I wondered why I didn't look like my mom. Why I liked things nobody else in my family did. And now, she trailed off. Renee walked up behind her, brushing a hand through her daughter's braids. You'll always be my baby, she whispered. No matter what anyone says. Maya turned, eyes wet. Even if I'm not really yours? Renee cupped her face. You're mine. Blood doesn't make a mother, love does. Zara, watching from across the room, felt a twist in her chest. For the first time in her privileged life, she envied someone else's love. Got something? Deji suddenly called out. Everyone turned toward him. On the main monitor, an old blog loaded. dated June 13, 16 years ago. The username read Ebony Archive. The page was simple, a single black and white image of the moon hanging over the Lagos skyline, partly hidden by storm clouds. Deji zoomed in. There's hidden data in the photo, a steganographic code. That's Angela's encryption key. Renee frowned. English, please. It means she hid the password inside the picture, Deji said quickly. If I decode it, we'll unlock every file she uploaded. He began typing faster, his face lit by the glow of the screens. A progress bar crept slowly upward. Almost there, 70%, 80%. The lights flickered. Then the entire room went dark. The generator sputtered. Obi's voice snapped through the darkness. Everybody down. A second later, a bullet shattered one of the glass panels. The storm outside had masked the sound of engines. 2 black trucks had pulled up silently, men spilling out into the rain. Maya screamed as Tunde pulled her and Renee to the floor. Obi, cover the exits. Gunfire cracked through the storm. Bullets sparked off the metal door frames, echoing like fireworks. Deji grabbed the laptop, diving behind the desk. I didn't save the files, he shouted. Zara crawled to him, helping shield the computer with her jacket. Save it now. I can't without power. Tunde gritted his teeth and sprinted to the generator, yanking the pull cord. It sputtered twice, then roared back to life. The lights flickered on, dim but alive. Now, he yelled. Deji's fingers flew over the keyboard. The progress bar hit 100%, and a folder opened. Dozens of documents appeared: hospital memos, transfer orders, bank receipts, birth certificates. Angela did it, Deji whispered. She saved everything. Then he froze. Oh no. What? Zara demanded. Deji's face went pale. There's a hit tracker embedded in the file. The moment I opened it, the Custodians got a signal. Renee's voice trembled. They know where we are. Outside, headlights cut through the rain, 5-6 vehicles closing in fast. Obi fired another warning shot through the window. They're surrounding us. Tunde grabbed the laptop from Deji and stuffed it into a waterproof bag. We can't fight them head-on. There's a tunnel behind the old studio, leads to the service road. Renee's grip tightened on Maya's hand. We're not leaving you. You're not, Tunde said. We move together. Everyone. They bolted down the hallway as bullets shattered microphones and old posters fluttered from the walls. Rain poured through a hole in the ceiling, soaking everything. Deji led the way to the back door, kicking it open. This way. The tunnel was narrow and half-flooded, but it was their only chance. Behind them, they could hear footsteps, the Custodians' men storming the building. Obi turned, fired 2 quick shots and shouted, Go! I'll cover. Obi. Tunde barked, but it was too late. His friend was already holding the line, buying them time. They waded through the murky tunnel water, emerging near a row of abandoned rail tracks. The night air was cold and sharp, the rain thinning into mist. Zara coughed hard, clutching her chest. Dad, what now? Tunde held the laptop close, staring into the distance. We go where they can't follow. To D.C. Deji blinked. You're serious? Yes, Tunde said. Angela's files list the Custodians' headquarters, registered as a research charity in Washington. That's where Jay Holbrook operates. Renee hesitated. And if it's another trap? Tunde's voice hardened. Then we end it there. All of it. Lightning flashed across the sky, casting long shadows on their faces. Maya looked at her father for the first time, not as a billionaire, not as a stranger, but as a man willing to risk everything for her. I'll go, she said softly. I want to know who did this to us. Tunde nodded, pride and fear warring in his eyes. Then we go together. Behind them, a distant explosion lit up the radio station, the blast echoing through the night like a warning. Deji muttered under his breath, They're cleaning the scene. Tunde turned toward the road, rain dripping from his coat. Then we'd better move before they clean us. They vanished into the mist, heading toward a destiny that none of them could yet see, but one that would demand everything before it was through. The chartered jet cut across the gray morning sky, humming low and steady like a heartbeat. Rain streaked against the windows, blurring the view of the clouds as Atlanta disappeared beneath them. Maya pressed her face to the glass, watching the shrinking city lights fade. For a girl who'd never left Georgia, it all felt unreal, leaving home overnight, running from people who wanted her dead, sitting beside the billionaire who turned out to be her biological father. Tunde sat across from her, elbows on his knees, eyes fixed on the documents glowing on his tablet screen. He hadn't slept since the fire, his beard untrimmed, his voice hoarse. Yet his focus was razor-sharp. Deji slouched a few seats back, typed furiously on his laptop, working to keep the encrypted files hidden from the Custodians' tracking network. Renee and Zara sat together at the far end of the cabin, the tension between them heavy but unspoken. Renee's eyes were red and tired, her hands still trembling from the chaos of the last 24 hours. Zara watched her quietly, guilt flickering in her face. The silence broke when Maya spoke softly, her voice almost lost beneath the hum of the engines. "Daddy, what are we going to do when we get there?" Tunde looked up slowly, the word daddy hitting him in a way bullets couldn't. He forced a small smile. "We find Holbrook. And we make him answer." "But he's powerful," Maya said. Angela called him the leader. "He's still human," Tunde replied, voice steady. "And humans bleed." Deji cleared his throat. "Boss, there's something you should see." He turned his laptop so everyone could see the screen. On it was a video file from Angela's encrypted folder. The timestamp read June 12, 16 years ago, 11:58 p.m. The footage showed the Lushview hospital maternity ward in chaos. Nurses moving by flashlight, monitors beeping wildly, mothers screaming as thunder rattled the building. Then the camera shifted. In one frame, a young woman in scrubs appeared, Angela, younger, her hair tied back, carrying a crying newborn. Behind her, another nurse took a second baby from a nearby crib. A man stepped into the shot, tall, wearing a black coat. His face wasn't clear but his voice was. Commanding. "Switch them now," he said. "And make sure the records match. No trace." Renee gasped. That voice. Tunde's blood turned cold. He knew that voice. Deji paused the video and zoomed in on the man's hand as lightning flashed. A gold ring caught the light, a heavy signet engraved with the initials JH. "Holbrook," Tunde whispered. He was there. Zara leaned closer, her eyes wide. "So this man ordered it all? He's the one who made us live different lives." "Yes," Tunde said grimly. "And he's the one who's going to pay." Deji tapped another key, opening an additional file, a list of transfers and offshore accounts linked to the Custodians Charitable Trust. The numbers were staggering. Hundreds of millions in donations funneled through fake hospitals, orphanages, and research centers. "This isn't just baby switching," Deji said. "It's human trafficking on a global scale." Renee pressed a hand to her mouth. "Oh dear God." Maya turned pale. "They sold babies?" Tunde nodded. "And built empires with the profits." Silence filled the jet again, heavy, suffocating, electric. Then Obi's voice came through the intercom from the cockpit. "Boss, we've got company. Unknown aircraft approaching at 2 o'clock." Everyone froze. Tunde rose immediately, moving to the cockpit door. "How close?" "Too close," Obi said. "They're shadowing us." "Small jet, no transponder ID." Deji's laptop beeped. He looked up sharply. "They're trying to jam our signal." Someone found the plane's flight path. Tunde grabbed the satellite phone. "Can we land early?" "Negative," Obi said. "Nearest safe field is 50 miles out." Renee's hand tightened around Maya's. "What do they want now?" Tunde's voice was grim. "To make sure we never reach Washington." The jet jolted suddenly, hard, sharp. A warning alarm screamed from the cockpit. "They've locked radar." Obi shouted. Zara's eyes went wide. "They're going to shoot us down?" Before Tunde could answer, a bright flash burst outside the window. A missile streaked through the clouds, then veered off at the last second, detonating in the air with a thunderous boom. The entire cabin shook violently. Maya screamed as the lights flickered. "Evasive!" Tunde yelled. Obi pulled the jet into a steep dive, alarms blaring. Loose objects tumbled through the cabin. Papers, water bottles, Angela's charred photo of the moon. Deji clutched his laptop to his chest, shouting over the noise. "They've hacked our altitude controls. We're losing hydraulic pressure." Renee's voice was ragged. "We're going to crash." Tunde stumbled toward the cockpit, gripping the wall. "Obi. Manual override." "I'm trying, sir." "The system's fighting back. Someone's in the network." Then suddenly Deji shouted, "Wait! I can jam their signal." He dropped to the floor, opening a panel beneath the seat and connecting wires from his laptop to the jet's control line. The plane leveled for a brief second, then shook again. Come on, Deji muttered, sweat dripping down his forehead. "Almost there." The console beeped once, then went quiet. The alarm stopped. The jet steadied. Deji slumped back against the wall, breathing hard. "Signal severed. We're invisible again." Tunde exhaled heavily, his heart pounding. Good work. Obi's voice came through again, rough with relief. We're clear, boss. The other jet just turned back. Looks like they lost us in the storm clouds. Zara clutched her chest, trembling. I thought we were done for. Tunde sank into his seat beside Maya, running a hand down his face. This is what they'll do to keep the truth buried. If they'll shoot down a plane in broad daylight? He looked at the laptop, jaw tightening. We can't stop now. Renee's voice was low. So what's the plan when we land? We find Holbrook, Tunde said. We deliver the files to the media live. Somewhere he can't silence us. Deji nodded. I can stream it. We go public, all platforms, all once. Millions watching in real time. If they try to shut us down, it'll already be too late. Tunde looked at his daughters, Maya quiet but fierce, Zara brave but shaken. We end this in D.C. Once and for all. Outside, lightning split the clouds again, casting the jet in bright silver light. For a fleeting moment, the reflection of the two girls shimmered in the glass side by side, mirror images of lives stolen and now bound together by fate. And as the plane disappeared into the clouds far below, another aircraft emerged from the storm, silent, dark, following their trail. This time, its wings bore no insignia, only a single painted symbol, a golden crescent moon. Tunde didn't see it yet. But the Custodians hadn't lost them at all. They were simply waiting for them to land. The plane landed just outside Washington, D.C., in a private airstrip tucked behind a wooded industrial park. Rain had followed them all the way, washing over the tarmac like thin silver veins. Tunde stepped out first, scanning the gray horizon. He'd expected the Custodians to strike before landing. That they hadn't worried him even more. It meant they were waiting for something. Renee and Maya followed, clutching hands. Zara stayed close to her father's side, her hair plastered to her face by the mist. Deji came last, carrying the waterproof case with the recovered files. His fingers trembled from exhaustion but his eyes burned with focus. DC, he muttered. The belly of the beast. Tunde nodded grimly. We move quickly. I arranged a safe house through one of my old contacts. Journalist, independent. Doesn't trust the system any more than I do. Who is he? Renee asked. Name's Marcus Reed, Tunde said. Used to work for the Atlantic Chronicle. They fired him after he exposed the senator's offshore accounts. Since then he's been helping whistleblowers disappear. Sounds like the right man, Deji said. He is, Tunde replied. If anyone can help us go public, it's him. They drove for nearly 40 minutes through backroads slick with rain, every passing car making Renee flinch. At last they reached an old warehouse near the riverfront. It looked abandoned, windows boarded up, but when Tunde knocked 3 times the steel door opened a crack. A man's voice came from behind it. Who's asking? Someone with proof that rich men buy babies, Tunde said evenly. The door swung wider. Marcus Reed stood in the entryway, tall and sharp-eyed, his hair gray at the temples. You sure know how to make an entrance. Inside, the warehouse had been converted into a studio. Computers, cameras, microphones. The faint hum of a generator echoed from the corner. Marcus offered them towels and bottled water, then gestured toward the equipment. If what you say is true, this'll be the biggest expose in 2 decades. But you'd better be sure because once this goes live, there's no turning back. Tunde nodded. We're sure. He motioned for Deji to open the files. Marcus leaned over the laptop as document after document appeared on the screen. Hospital records. Birth certificates. Wire transfers. Medical photos stamped with the names of fake foundations. Then came the list, 27 names. Politicians. CEOs. Foreign investors. The Custodians. Marcus whistled low. Holy, they've been using the hospitals to launder adoption scams. Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, even the U.S. Every country that's ever had a baby trafficking scare, these people were behind it. Renee's voice cracked. And our girls were just accidents in their system? Collateral, Marcus said softly. But that's what makes your story powerful. It humanizes it. He turned to Tunde. We live stream this broadcast across my dark web network. Once it's out, every major outlet will pick it up. Tunde nodded. Do it. Marcus adjusted the microphone. I'll need you on camera. All of you. Tell your story as it happened. Zara's eyes widened. Us. Yes, Marcus said. You're living proof. Renee hesitated, glancing at Maya. She's just a child. Maya lifted her chin. I'm not hiding anymore. That quiet courage made everyone still. Marcus nodded approvingly. Then let's begin. 10 minutes later the camera light glowed red. Marcus leaned into the mic. This is Marcus Reed, transmitting from an undisclosed location. What you're about to hear may change everything you think you know about hospital systems, private charities, and the cost of a human life. He turned the camera toward Tunde, who sat between Renee and the girls. Deji stayed just outside the frame monitoring the feed. Tunde's voice was steady. My name is Tunde Adebayo. 16 years ago, my newborn daughter was switched in a Lagos hospital during a power outage. We thought it was an accident. It wasn't. He told the story of the storm, the switch, the birthmark, the gala, and Angela's death. As he spoke, Marcus streamed images from the files on screen beside him. Hospital photos, the moon-shaped mark behind Maya's ear, the forged documents. Renee's voice broke when she spoke of raising Maya. I didn't know she wasn't mine. But love doesn't need DNA. She's my daughter. And they tried to take her from me twice, once at birth and now with bullets. Zara added quietly, they made us strangers. But now we're a family again. They can't undo that. Maya, small but brave, faced the camera. They called me baby girl Carter on paper. But I'm also Adebayo. And I just want to live without people lying about who I am. The chat feed on Marcus's screen exploded. Comments poured in. This can't be real. I'm watching from Lagos. We remember that hospital. Expose them all. Justice for Maya and Zara. The viewer count shot past 1 million, then 2. Deji grinned nervously. It's spreading fast, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere. They can't stop it now. But then, his smile vanished. Wait, he muttered. The feed, it's being mirrored. Marcus frowned. Mirrored how? Deji's fingers flew across the keyboard. Someone's duplicating our stream, sending it through another server. Tunde stiffened. Who? Before anyone could answer, the monitors flickered. The live chat froze. The video feed distorted into static. Then the image on screen shifted. A man appeared in an immaculate white office, face shadowed, voice calm but cold. Mr. Adebayo, he said. You've been very busy. The name beneath the feed read J. Holbrook, the Custodians Foundation. Maya's hand flew to her mouth. That's him? Holbrook smiled faintly. You've given the world quite a show. Unfortunately, the truth is only as powerful as the one who controls it. Marcus slammed a button to cut the feed. I'm trying, he's hijacked the connection. Holbrook continued, his tone almost casual. You think you've cornered us? No. You've simply reminded the world why they need us. Order, control, discretion. He leaned forward, eyes like ice. You want your daughters alive, Mr. Adebayo? Then you'll bring the original files to me. Tonight. Alone. The screen flashed with an address, an abandoned museum on the edge of D.C. Midnight, Holbrook said. Or your story ends before morning. The feed cut out. Silence hung like a noose. Deji turned slowly to Tunde. He traced us. He knows exactly where we are. Marcus's voice was grim. You've got one choice, Tunde. Run, or walk straight into the lion's den. Tunde stood, face unreadable. We're not running anymore. Zara's voice shook. Dad, no. He looked at her, then at Maya. Both girls, both parts of his life. They've taken everything from us already. This ends tonight. Renee grabbed his arm. You can't fight them alone. Tunde's eyes burned with quiet fire. Then I won't be alone. He turned to Marcus. Can you stream one more time? Marcus frowned. Yes, but if Holbrook blocks it again? He won't, Tunde interrupted. Because this time we'll go live inside his lair. Deji looked stunned. You mean, film him confessing? Yes, Tunde said. We expose him with his own words. Let the whole world watch him choke on the truth. Renee shook her head. It's suicide. Tunde smiled faintly. No. It's justice. Outside, thunder rolled again. Midnight wasn't far away. And somewhere in the dark city beyond, J. Holbrook was already waiting. The city was quieter than it should have been at midnight. The streets of D.C. shimmered under thin sheets of rain, the capital's faint glow reflecting off puddles and glass. But in the industrial district, where the old National Museum of Health sat abandoned, there was no light, only shadow. Tunde stood at the edge of the building, dressed in a dark coat, his jaw set. Inside his jacket was the waterproof case, Angela's drive, the last proof of everything the Custodians had done. Obi parked a block away, headlights off. Boss, this is suicide, he whispered through the comms. You walk in there, they'll kill you before you can blink. Tunde's voice came through steady, low. Not if the world is watching. Marcus's team had done their part. Cameras, hidden in buttonholes, collars, even the frame of Tunde's glasses, were live streaming directly to Deji's network. Encrypted, untraceable. This time the truth would not die in silence. "Feed's good," Deji's voice said in his earpiece from the van nearby. "Audio and visual are rolling. You've got 20,000 viewers already." "Then let's give them something worth seeing," Tunde murmured. He pushed open the museum door. It groaned like an old wound. Inside, the once grand hall was hollow and cold. Mannequins stood behind shattered glass cases, frozen mid-step in displays about the history of medicine. A banner, long faded, still hung from the ceiling, healing the world through innovation. Footsteps echoed somewhere in the dark. Then a voice, calm, cultured, deliberate. "Mr. Adebayo," said Jay Holbrook, stepping from the shadows. He was older than Tunde expected, but no less imposing. Silver hair combed back neatly, black coat sharp against the pale marble floor. His eyes gleamed with the confidence of a man used to controlling every outcome. "You came alone," Holbrook said, smiling faintly. "Impressive. Most men send their bodyguards first." Tunde's voice didn't waver. "You asked for me. You get me." Holbrook gestured toward a long glass table under the broken skylight. "Let's talk." Tunde followed, every muscle tight. Rain pattered above, dripping through the cracks in the ceiling, each drop echoing like a countdown. Holbrook folded his hands. "I watched your little broadcast," he said. "It was touching. Dramatic even. You have a gift for storytelling." Tunde's eyes narrowed. "I didn't come for compliments. I came for truth." Holbrook chuckled softly. "Truth, Mr. Adebayo, is what powerful men say it is. The world isn't ready to believe that hospitals trade babies like commodities. They'll call you delusional, desperate, unhinged. Then let them," Tunde said. "As long as they hear it from you." Holbrook tilted his head. "From me?" Tunde reached into his coat and pulled out the drive. "This holds every file you tried to bury. But what matters more is your confession. So go on, tell me why." Holbrook's smile thinned. "Do you really think I'll give you that?" "You already are," Tunde said quietly, adjusting his glasses slightly toward the man. Far away in the van, Deji's fingers flew over the keyboard. "He's live. Every word is streaming." Renee, Maya, and Zara sat behind him, eyes glued to the monitor. Maya's small hand clutched her mother's tightly. "Please, Daddy," she whispered. "Come back safe." Inside the museum, Holbrook circled slowly around the table. "When I founded the Custodians," he said, voice low, "we were saving lives. Rich couples who couldn't have children. Poor hospitals drowning in debt. We gave hope, to both." "You stole from families," Tunde said. "I corrected nature's mistakes," Holbrook replied, calm as ice. "The babies we took, many of them were unwanted. Some were sick, some abandoned. We gave them futures. The world praises adoption, but scorns the machinery that makes it possible." Tunde stepped closer. "And Maya? Was she unwanted too?" For a moment, Holbrook's mask cracked, just slightly. "That one wasn't supposed to happen," he said. "There was chaos. The storm, the power failure. 2 nurses made a mistake. By the time I arrived, it was done. And instead of fixing it," Tunde said, voice rising, "you covered it up." Holbrook's jaw tightened. "Because fixing it would have exposed everything. The hospitals, the donors, the governments involved. Do you have any idea what would have happened to the balance we built?" "Balance?" Tunde's voice broke into a bitter laugh. "You built a business selling children." Holbrook didn't flinch. "And you built an empire selling dreams. Every billionaire in this world profits from someone else's tears. Don't stand there and pretend you're any different." The words hit Tunde hard, but he didn't look away. "You're right. I've made mistakes. But I never traded souls." Holbrook sighed, almost pitying. "You really think you can destroy us with one story?" Tunde leaned forward, his voice low. "Not a story. A confession." He pressed the button on his glasses. The camera light blinked once. Holbrook froze. "What did you—" "Say it," Tunde interrupted, calm but deadly. "Say you ran the Custodians. Say you ordered the switches." Holbrook's eyes flickered toward the shadows at the edge of the hall. From the darkness, armed men began to emerge, 5, 6 of them, rifles raised. "Mr. Adebayo," Holbrook said softly, "you've misunderstood. You were never here to record. You were here to disappear." Outside, Deji's feet stuttered. The video glitched. "No, no, no," signals cutting. "Why?" Zara cried. "They've jammed the uplink." Deji shouted. "We're losing visual." Inside the museum, Tunde glanced upward, realizing the same thing. The red light on his glasses flickered out. Holbrook smiled faintly. And now we'll rewrite your ending. Tunde reached into his coat slowly. You think I didn't plan for this? Holbrook frowned. Tunde tossed the drive across the room. It slid beneath one of the mannequins, far from reach. You destroy me fine. But that data's already backed up and scheduled to upload in 1 hour. Kill me and the world gets it anyway. Holbrook's face hardened. Liar. Try me. Holbrook hesitated. Then, one of his guards lifted his gun. The sound of a gunshot thundered through the hall. But it wasn't Tunde who fell. The guard staggered backward, a bullet in his shoulder. From the upper balcony, Obi appeared with a rifle, shouting, "Get down, boss!" Chaos erupted. Gunfire lit up the dark like lightning. Tunde dove behind a marble column, grabbing a fallen weapon. Holbrook ducked behind the glass table, shouting, "End it now!" One of his men pulled a small device from his pocket, a detonator. Deji's voice screamed through the earpiece. Tunde, get out. They rigged the place, thermal readings just spiked. Tunde looked around wildly. Firelight flickered near the walls where small charges were blinking red. He ran for the fallen drive, bullets whizzing past. Smoke filled the room. Holbrook was backing toward an exit. Blood splattered across his sleeve from a stray shot. "This is over, Mr. Adebayo," he shouted. Tunde grabbed the drive, ducked behind a pillar and shouted back, "You're right, it's over. For you." Then he hurled the drive into a metal casing beneath the central statue, a live power conduit sparking from bullet damage. A surge of light exploded. The drive hissed, fused, and sparked, a final upload command flashing across Deji's monitor miles away. "Upload complete," Deji breathed. He did it. The explosion ripped through the museum seconds later, a fiery bloom swallowing the halls. Outside, Deji and the others watched in horror as the building went up, fire lighting the rain. Maya screamed, "Daddy!" Renee grabbed her, sobbing. "No, no, please God no." Marcus stared at the feed, his voice breaking. He triggered the upload manually. He knew he wouldn't get out in time. On the laptop, the last frame of the live stream appeared, a burst of static, then a single frozen image. Tunde Adebayo, standing tall amid fire and chaos, staring straight into the camera, saying, "For every child they stole, may the truth finally live." Then the screen went dark. Across the world, every major news outlet received the files. Within minutes, headlines blazed. Global child trafficking ring exposed. Billionaire sacrifices life to reveal truth. The Custodians fall. And as the world reacted, one family knelt in the rain outside the burning museum. 2 daughters, 1 mother, holding each other under the weight of both grief and justice. Morning came quiet. Too quiet. The fire at the museum had been contained hours ago, but smoke still curled above the blackened ruins like a mourning veil. Police cars and emergency trucks lined the street, their red and blue lights flashing weakly in the gray dawn. Renee stood behind the barricade, her face pale, eyes swollen from crying. Maya clung to her waist, silent, trembling under a borrowed blanket. Zara stood a few steps away, staring at the smoldering wreckage where her father had vanished. Deji was kneeling beside a police van, fingers trembling over his laptop. "The upload went through," he murmured. "Every file, every video, every word. He did it." Marcus nodded grimly, speaking to a cluster of reporters who'd arrived minutes after the explosion. "The truth is out," he said. Tunde Adebayo gave his life to end one of the biggest human trafficking networks in modern history. A reporter asked softly, "And what about Holbrook?" Marcus's expression darkened. "Gone. No body found. He either escaped, or burned." Renee turned sharply at that, her voice hoarse. "If he's alive, he'll crawl out again. Men like him always do." Marcus met her gaze. "Not this time. The world's watching now. There's nowhere left to hide." That day the story broke across every major channel and platform. Videos. Headlines. Footage of the museum blaze. Global outcry over Custodians scandal. Hospitals under investigation in 5 countries. UN launches probe into baby trafficking ring. Tunde's face appeared everywhere, on billboards, on memorial hashtags, on news tickers that called him the billionaire who chose truth over power. And in Lagos, crowds gathered at the old hospital site, lighting candles beneath a cracked sign that still read Lushview Women's Hospital. Some prayed. Some sang. Some cried. But for one family the victory was personal and bittersweet. 2 weeks later, Renee sat on the porch of their temporary safe house, a quiet cabin in Maryland surrounded by tall pines. The air smelled of rain and soil, and for the first time in weeks, it was peaceful. Maya was on the swing nearby, sketching the moon in a small notebook. The birthmark behind her ear caught the light, a faint crescent, just like her father used to call the moon's kiss. Zara sat beside her, helping her shade the clouds. "He'd like this," she said softly. Maya nodded. "He said he wanted to see the moon from D.C. one day." Renee swallowed hard. "He did." They fell silent, the sound of crickets filling the space between them. Then Deji stepped out from the cabin holding a small tablet. "Mrs. Carter, you should see this." He handed it to her. On the screen was a breaking news alert, footage from a European news outlet. Interpol confirms the arrest of Jonathan Holbrook, founder of the Custodians Foundation in Geneva, Switzerland. Holbrook was found hiding in a private clinic using a false identity. Authorities credit leaked evidence from the late Nigerian-American businessman Tunde Adebayo. Renee's breath caught. "He's alive." Zara's eyes widened. "They got him?" Deji nodded slowly. "Yeah. And it's everywhere. Governments are freezing custodian assets. Hospitals are being raided. It's over." Maya's voice trembled, small but certain. "Daddy did it." Renee's lips quivered. "Yes, baby. He did." They huddled together, mother and daughters, bound by tragedy and truth. Later that night, the girls fell asleep on the couch, curled beneath a blanket. The TV played softly, replaying Tunde's last message to the world, the one that had been recovered from the corrupted stream. "They took my daughter. They tried to erase her name. But you can't erase love. You can't erase truth. If you're watching this, protect the innocent. Expose the powerful. And never let silence win." Renee watched, tears slipping down her cheeks. She whispered, "Rest now, Tunde. We'll carry the story." The camera panned to a framed photo on the mantel. Tunde with both girls at the scholarship gala, that same night when it all began. Behind them, faint but visible, the silver moon glowed through the ballroom windows. Outside, the wind rustled through the pines, brushing against the cabin walls. And for a brief, quiet moment, Renee could swear she heard his voice, soft, calm, proud. "Take care of them, Renee. My girls." 1 year later, Lagos, Nigeria. The rebuilt Adebayo Foundation Hospital for Mothers and Children opened to a crowd of hundreds. The building was bright, full of color and laughter. No marble, no gold, just clean halls and open arms. At the dedication ceremony, Maya, now 17, stood beside the podium, wearing a white dress with small moon patterns on the sleeves. Zara, 21, held her hand. Renee stepped up to the microphone, her voice steady, strong. "Today we honor a man who refused to let evil hide behind wealth or power. My daughters lost a father and the world lost a good man. But from his sacrifice came change and hope." Applause rippled through the crowd. Cameras flashed. Maya leaned into the mic, smiling faintly. "My dad used to say, truth isn't always safe, but it's always right. This place is for every child who deserves a name, a chance, and a future." The audience rose to their feet. And high above, through the glass ceiling of the new hospital, the afternoon sun broke through the clouds, forming a faint halo that looked, for just a moment, like a silver crescent. Renee looked up, tears glimmering in her eyes. "We see you, Tunde," she whispered. "The moon's still shining."